I didn't mean to find it. But the moment I hit play, everything I believed about her died. She was positioned on the bed. One hand bracing against the headboard, the other pressed flat to the mirror, her engagement ring still on. And behind her, half out of frame, was Chase Donovan. Shirtless. Laughing. Like this was a game he'd already won. That's how it started for me. Not with a confession. Not with suspicion. With a video. Her tablet had pinged, a notification popping up while she was in the shower. She left it unlocked. I wasn't snooping. I just picked it up to move it. And there it was. A 36-second video, filmed in a dimly lit hotel room, with her whispering his name while my name was probably still saved in her phone as Love. I didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just watched. My pulse didn't race. My thoughts didn't scream. I just disappeared. She had told me she was at Lacey's baby shower that weekend. Even sent me pictures, balloons, cupcakes, women holding fake mustaches to their faces. But in this clip, there were no cupcakes. Just her, in lingerie, using words like "sir" like she was reading from a script that cost her more than she realized. I pressed pause. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen. I looked like a ghost. She stepped out of the shower minutes later, towel wrapped, hair dripping. She smiled like nothing was broken. "What are we doing for dinner?" she asked. I didn't answer. Just slid the tablet across the counter like a dealer revealing his hand. Her eyes landed on the screen. Her body froze. Only her face moved. Eyebrows twitching. Lips parting. "You went through my stuff." Of course. Of all the things to say, she chose that. "You lied," I said, my voice low. "You lied for months. You made me feel like I was crazy. And all this time, it wasn't work stress. It wasn't distance. It was him." She blinked once. Then shrugged. Actually shrugged. "You were distant too," she said. I needed to feel something. That night, I didn't lose her. I lost the man who trusted her. The man who forgave small lies. The man who waited up when she was working late. He died. And I buried him with silence. I took a step back. Not because I was afraid. Because if I didn't, I might have screamed, and screaming meant she'd get to call me unstable. So I left. Walked out the front door with nothing but my keys and the sound of her toweled footsteps following behind me. "You're really gonna throw everything away over a mistake," she called out. Mistake? I turned on the porch. No. A mistake is locking your keys in the car. This was demolition. I got in my car. Hands shaking. Heart numb. And as I drove to nowhere, headlights cutting through the dark, one truth pounded in my chest with every beat. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me. I didn't go to a hotel. Didn't call a friend. I just drove until the world around me felt unfamiliar. An empty parking lot near a closed pharmacy, that's where I ended up. Streetlight buzzing. Air cold enough to sting. I sat there for hours. Engine off. Silence loud. The more I replayed the video, the less it felt like a memory. It was like watching someone else's life collapse. Some poor guy who didn't see it coming. Except that guy was me. I didn't feel like a man cheated on. I felt like a ghost watching his own obituary. When I finally walked back into our house, it felt like trespassing. The same framed wedding photo on the wall. Same throw pillows she used to rearrange every weekend. But the air. It was wrong. I didn't expect her to be there. But her scent was, like a crime scene that hadn't been cleaned. Her perfume still clung to the hallway, sweet, expensive, familiar. But underneath it, something else lingered. Something sharper. Like cologne I'd never wear. I opened the bedroom door. Bed made. Perfectly. She never made the bed. Not once in 5 years. I sat on the edge, hands on my knees, eyes fixed on nothing. I was waiting, for the room to tell me the truth. For something, anything, to scream, "You were right." And it did. A pair of red heels, tucked just out of sight behind her closet door. Not hers. Not even her size. She hadn't been careless. She'd been comfortable. Affairs don't survive on passion. They survive on routine. And she'd already made him part of hers. I reached for her tablet again. Not out of obsession. Out of duty. This wasn't guessing anymore. This was an investigation. Messages. Dozens. Some mundane. Some explicit. But the worst were the ones where they talked about me. She called me the roommate. Said I was soft. Predictable. That she couldn't even stand the way I chewed. There was one voice note, her laughing, breathless, saying, "He still thinks I'm working late." Poor baby. I wasn't hearing infidelity. I was hearing entertainment. Like my loyalty was the setup for their inside joke. I didn't throw the tablet. Didn't scream. Didn't even stand. I just sat there and listened to every word until I couldn't feel my hands. When she came home that night, keys jingling, heels clicking, I was already at the kitchen table. Tablet open. Messages on screen. She paused. Looked at the screen. Then looked at me. I wanted a flinch. A crack. Anything human. But she stared like I'd just overcooked dinner. And just like earlier, no apology. No panic. Just that same damn question. "Why were you going through my stuff?" "You lied," I said, my voice low. "You lied for months. You made me feel like I was crazy. You mocked me behind my back. You turned our marriage into background noise. So you could feel like the star of some second-rate soap opera. And now you're mad that I found out?" She shrugged. "You've been boring for a long time, Logan. You stopped trying. I needed someone who made me feel something." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. "All this time," I said, "I thought we were in a rough patch. Turns out, I was just in the way. Like I was furniture she hadn't gotten around to replacing." She crossed her arms. "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm finally reacting." I stood up. Walked past her without flinching. She followed. "You're just gonna leave?" I didn't look at her. "You already did. You just didn't have the decency to say it out loud." As I reached the front door, she muttered something under her breath. I stopped. "What?" She looked me straight in the eye. "You were never man enough for me." There it was. The kill shot. The line she'd been rehearsing. Waiting for the moment she could say it and feel powerful. But it didn't land. Because I wasn't standing in front of her anymore. I was already gone. The rental smelled like nothing. No candles. No perfume. No memories. For blank walls, a stiff couch, and sheets that didn't remember her body. No ghosts in the pillows. No lipstick on the mugs. Just silence and square edges. Perfect. I dropped my bag on the floor and just stood there. The quiet wasn't comforting. It was screaming. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. The hotel. The mirror. The way she smiled for him like it cost her nothing. I slept on top of the covers that first night. Shoes still on. I didn't sleep. I shut down. Like a system too overloaded to crash. Didn't dream. Didn't move. Just stared at the ceiling and tried to remember when exactly I stopped being her husband and became her audience. Morning hit like a punch. No coffee pot. No routine. Just a phone buzzing on the floor next to me. Even her texts had a tone. Like betrayal was business. Like she was filing a complaint, not gutting a man. Ashley. You overreacted. We can be adults about this. Let's talk terms. Terms. Like this was a lease ending early. Like our marriage was a phone plan she wanted out of, clean and penalty-free. Like I was a clause she forgot to remove. A subscription she stopped using but never cancelled. I didn't respond. Not out of spite. Out of exhaustion. 3 days passed. She didn't apologize. Not once. The only messages were cold logistics. What's the Wi-Fi password for the garage cam? Where's the insurance folder? Are you canceling the lawn guy? On day 4, she showed up. No warning. Just a knock at the door of the place she was never supposed to find. I opened it to find her in jeans and a sweater, no makeup, hair tied back, like she was trying to cosplay sincerity. Like she thought a sweater could cover the blood on her hands. I didn't stop her. Because curiosity is quieter than closure. And I wanted to hear the next lie out loud. She sighed, like I was the difficult one. It wasn't working, Logan. You were distant. You didn't see me anymore. I saw you every day, I said. I just didn't realize I was staring at a stranger. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. No. I stepped closer. Then explain the hotel bookings. The lingerie. The videos. Explain how you made our home a stage and me the fool. Explain the script you gave him, where my name was the punchline. Explain why he felt bold enough to tell me to walk away from my own life. Her lips twitched. You're acting like I committed a crime. No, I said. You committed an execution. You didn't cheat. You staged a murder with candlelight and room service. And you didn't even bury me with dignity. She flinched. Only for a second. But I saw it. I needed more, she said. You didn't give it. You were just, existing. And then, like it was a casual goodbye, she turned for the door. Tossed a parting shot over her shoulder. Maybe if you'd been more of a man, you'd still have a wife. I didn't stop her. Didn't argue. Just said, loud and clear. No. I don't have a wife. I had a drain in a dress. You didn't leave me. You leaked me. Day by day, until nothing was left but patience and bones. She froze in the doorway. But didn't turn. And I didn't wait for her to. After she left, the silence came back. But it was different now. It wasn't grief. It was fuel. Grief begs for answers. Fuel doesn't beg. It burns. I opened my laptop. Logged into our accounts. And started following the digital trail of her betrayal. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for proof. Because something inside me needed it to be official. Documented. Logged. I didn't want the memory of betrayal, I wanted a paper trail. Memory fades. Paper doesn't. I wanted ink that screamed louder than excuses. So I started where all modern crimes begin, the bank. Our joint account. Dozens of charges. Little things at first. Coffee shops in parts of town she never went to. Gas stations off freeways she never drove. Then bigger things. A pair of flights I never took. Booked with our names. Funded by my trust. Stamped with her freedom. One round trip, LAX to Seattle, the same weekend she said she was at Lacey's baby shower. The return flight. The same morning I found the video. It wasn't just cheating. It was planning. Structure. A whole secret calendar built beside mine. I called in a favor. An old friend, retired cop. Owed me from back when I helped him save his marriage. Irony, huh? No questions. Just action. 48 hours later, he had what I needed. Screenshots. Transfer logs. Messages. She'd moved money, our money, into her sister's account. Like betrayal was a family business. And I was the last to get the memo. There was even a purchase, a luxury watch for Chase. Time is precious. She bought his with mine. I stared at that receipt for a long time. Not because of the price. Because it meant she used me to fund her escape. I wasn't angry. I was still. Still like a sniper breathing before the trigger. Still like water just before it boils. Quiet doesn't mean calm. It means something's about to rupture. I didn't tell her I found it. I told my lawyer. His name was Bram. Quiet guy. Wore corduroy jackets and smelled like old paper and courtroom air. He didn't blink much. Didn't smile often. But I trusted him like a man trusts a scalpel, not for comfort, but for precision. He read through the documents in silence, flipping pages like they were chapters of a crime novel. She's not going to see this coming, he said, calm as a surgeon. No, I said. She thinks I'm still sitting in that kitchen chair, trying to understand what happened. He smirked. Most people don't expect consequences when they think they're in control. We started the paperwork. Freezing the accounts. Filing formal claims. Requesting an audit trail so detailed, it could double as a confession. A week passed. And then she showed up. Again. This time, at my job. I spotted her leaning against her car outside the building. Same coat she wore the day we picked out our wedding bands. What once stood for forever now looked like camouflage. She wore commitment like a costume. And now the seams were showing. She smiled when she saw me. Tired, half fake. The smile of someone about to pitch a new version of the story. Can we talk? She asked. Like adults? I let her talk. Just long enough to hang herself with the silence. Sure. And handed her the folder. She frowned. What's this? Your curtain call. Inside. Bank statements. Transfers. Messages. Screenshots. Voice notes. Every receipt of her double life, printed and dated. You can't gaslight paper. Ink doesn't forget. She flipped through it. Her fingers began to tremble. Just slightly. But I saw it. You're filing, she whispered. Already did, I said. And I'm taking everything I legally can. Logan, come on. No, I cut in. You brought another man into my home. You lied to my face. You mocked me behind my back. You used me like a backup generator while you lit fireworks for someone else. She went pale. For the first time, she looked out of breath. I leaned in, voice low. You thought I'd break. Instead, I built. You thought I was ashes. But I was kindling. And now, I'm fire. 3 days later, I saw him. Chase. Leaning against his black Dodge in the parking garage of my building, arms crossed, sunglasses on, like he was auditioning for a third-rate spy flick. Trying to look dangerous with $10 shades and discount cologne. I didn't slow down. I'd already buried the part of me that cared. All that was left was the gravedigger. Just walked past him. You got a second, he called out. I stopped. Turned slowly. Looked him over like a mechanic checking a totaled car. Make it quick. He gave that slow, practiced shrug, like he was trying to look reasonable. Look, man, I didn't mean for things to blow up like this. I figured she'd handle it clean. I didn't know she'd. You figured, I said flatly. You figured wrong. That's the problem with guys like you. You treat wreckage like open doors. You figured you could sleep with my wife, show up at dinner like a peacock, and I'd what, hand you the keys to the house and a copy of our vows. He shifted. Eyes darted. She made the choice too, he muttered. Let's not pretend she didn't. I stepped in, close enough that I could see the faint tremble at his jawline. She did, I said. And so did you. So whatever fantasy you had about taking over my life, let it go. You were a side piece that wandered too close to the spotlight. She sold you a lead role in a tragedy she already cast. And you showed up thinking it was a love story. He stiffened. You don't scare me, Logan. Then you're dumber than you look. I smiled. But it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile you give just before the hammer drops. Remember dinner? I said. Remember when you gave me options? He didn't answer. You gave me 2 options. Now here's yours, walk or limp. He flinched. Just enough. And that was enough. I stepped back. Because I didn't need to swing. I'd already hit him where it hurt, his illusion of control. I'm not here to brawl, I said. I left that version of me at the restaurant floor. I leaned closer, dropped my voice. But you'll feel what you did. Not in bruises. In consequences. You'll feel me in every locked door. In every silence that follows your name. In every woman who looks past you, because your shadow still twitches. He looked around, suddenly aware of how quiet the garage was. No one watching. Just his reflection trembling on the car door. You think this makes you strong? He spat. No. It makes me awake. And men like me, when we wake up, we build storms. And then I walked. Didn't look back. Because real power isn't in revenge. It's in restraint. Back at the rental, I opened my laptop. And got to work. Bram was already moving. Deeper audits. Tracing purchases. Pulling footage from hotel lobbies. And the more we dug, the more she unraveled. She hadn't been sloppy. She'd been smug. Receipts. Timestamps. Account links. Hotel in Palm Springs during her virtual team building weekend. She worked remote. I was the team. Dinner for 2 in San Jose. Funny. Her sister must have grown a beard and ordered steak rare. She didn't just cheat. She built a second life from the bones of mine. And now. I was building something too. Not a counterattack. A message. One she'd feel every time she reached for someone she thought was weaker than her. Because some people learn through heartbreak. But people like her. They only learn through impact. The plan was simple, survive. Keep my head down. Let the paperwork move. Build the case. Burn the past slowly, page by page. What I didn't expect was the call. Dad? It was Madison. My daughter. 18. Sharp. Strong. Too grown for her age, and I suddenly knew why. When one parent lies, the child grows up in defense. Not maturity. Just survival in disguise. Her voice was tight. Controlled. But behind it, I heard glass grinding. Mom showed up at school. I froze. School. She wanted to have lunch. Said she wanted to talk woman to woman. My stomach turned. I didn't ask questions. I let her speak. She said you overreacted. That it wasn't that serious. That you're bitter and trying to poison me against her. Silence. I waited. Then Madison said. I told her I'm not stupid. She wasn't angry. She wasn't crying. She was surgical. I told her I saw the emails. The receipts. The hotel confirmations. I told her I heard the fight that night you left. That I heard her laugh after you slammed the door. That's when I realized. Ashley hadn't just lost a husband. She'd lost the last thread holding her version of the truth together. Because our daughter didn't believe me. She saw her. She said you were never enough, Madison continued. Said she felt alone. That chase made her feel alive. Funny how betrayal always rebrands itself as awakening. Like fire pretending to be sunrise. Another pause. And I said, funny. Because Dad was always more than you ever deserved. I didn't speak. I couldn't. There are moments as a father when the world presses pause. This was one of them. Not because she defended me. Because she saw through the lie without me saying a word. I want to come live with you, she said. Full time. Are you sure? I don't trust her anymore. She's trying to make me doubt what I know. I can feel it. She's playing the same game with me she played with you. I exhaled. Not in relief. In heartbreak. We filed the paperwork. Fast. Madison moved in by the end of the week. Half her stuff still smelled like her mother's perfume, but she didn't flinch when she dropped the boxes on the floor. Ashley, of course, tried to spin it. Texted. Called. Emailed. Said it was teen rebellion. Said I was weaponizing her daughter. She broke the mirror. Then blamed us for bleeding. Said we were both too emotional to see clearly. But the thing about manipulators. They don't know what to do when silence answers louder than words. Madison didn't respond. Not once. She just settled into the new place like she'd been waiting for the noise to stop her whole life. One night, I found her on the back porch. Hoodie up. Knees hugged to her chest. She used to braid my hair, she said. Every picture day. Every single one. I didn't speak. She wasn't looking for answers. She'd hum while she did it. Little songs I don't remember. Just that they made me feel safe. But now I don't know what to do with those memories, she said. I don't know if they were real. Or just rehearsed. They were warm. And that's what hurts. When monsters used to hum lullabies. I looked at her. And said, simply. They were real. But so was the part where she left. She wiped her eyes. People keep asking me what happened. Like I'm supposed to defend her. You don't owe anyone a story, I said. Sometimes silence is the only honest answer left. She nodded. And we just sat there. Father and daughter. Both survivors of the same fire. Not talking about what burned. Just grateful for what remained. Sometimes survival isn't loud. It just sits beside you, and doesn't leave. The dust had barely settled. No more late-night texts. No surprise emails. Just silence. And then she showed up. Madison's graduation prep event. A warm evening on the school lawn. Parents everywhere, clapping, snapping photos, rehearsing pride. And there she was. Standing just outside the crowd. Not far enough to be gone. Not close enough to matter. Sunglasses on. A tiny bouquet in her hands like it could erase a year of wreckage. She wasn't invited. She knew that. But people like Ashley don't wait for invites. They show up like they're owed something. Madison saw her first. Didn't flinch. Didn't freeze. She just turned her back. Didn't even say a word. I watched Ashley hover on the edge of the celebration, half in, half out, like a ghost too stubborn to cross over. A few parents noticed. Some whispered. A few offered polite nods. Ashley didn't care. She was used to walking into rooms like she owned them. But ownership ends where truth begins. And this room already knew hers. Later that night, after the crowd was gone and the lights dimmed, Madison told me everything. She tried to guilt me, she said. Said she's still my mother. Said you turned me against her. I stayed quiet. She said you were vindictive. That you ruined Chase's career just to hurt her. I looked at Madison. And what did you say to that? She smiled. But it wasn't joy. It was steel. I said, no, Mom. He just finally acted like the man you didn't think he could be. That hit harder than any punch Chase ever threw. Because I'd questioned myself. More times than I could count. Was I too cold? Too calculated? Should I have walked away quietly? But hearing that? It wasn't pride. It was truth. Ashley had built her world on performance. But now, the curtain had fallen. And no one was clapping. Because sometimes the show ends. And everyone just leaves. Word had spread. Neighborhoods like ours don't keep secrets, they circulate them. The woman once praised as the model wife, the pillar of the community, the loyal board member. She was now the cautionary tale. She moved into a smaller apartment across town. Gone were the wine nights. The brunches. The curated social posts. Rumor had it Chase cut ties the moment his job went down. No more hotel getaways. He came for a queen. But all he got was ashes. Just bills. And silence. But even then, she still tried. She emailed me. Long message. No apology. Just a rewrite. She called it a moment of weakness. Said Chase was a mistake born of loneliness. Said she never stopped loving me. Said she hoped we could someday be friends. Friends. Like the fire could forget the match. I didn't reply. I printed the email. Read it once. Then burned it in the sink. No anger. Just release. Like watching trash return to smoke. Because some forgiveness doesn't come in words. It comes in refusal to carry their weight ever again. After Chase got fired, the noise stopped. No texts. No voicemails. No more blocked numbers pretending they weren't her. Just quiet. But not the dangerous kind. Not the kind that hums before a storm. This silence felt different. Like fresh snow. Untouched. Cold, yes, but clean. And when it melts, it doesn't take anything with it. It just disappears. And I learned something. Sometimes peace doesn't arrive with trumpets and light. Sometimes it slips in while you're doing the dishes. Or tying your shoes. Or laughing at a commercial you'd normally skip. I didn't realize I'd healed until I laughed and didn't feel guilty. The air at home felt clearer. Not because we opened windows. Because no one was sucking the oxygen out of the room anymore. Madison started smiling again. That mattered more than anything. She got a part-time job at a bookstore. She smiled when the receipt printed. Like the future was finally something she could touch. Started saving for college. We opened her first checking account together. She handled the PIN like it was state secrets. One afternoon, while she was at work, I found an old box in the garage. It was labeled anniversary stuff. Inside. Cards. Photos. Ticket stubs. A shell from the beach she made me pick up because it looked like a heart. At the bottom. A letter. Blue ink. Curved handwriting. It was from her. Ashley. Before the lies. She wrote about how lucky she felt. How she wanted to grow old with me. How she never imagined choosing anyone else. I read it slowly. And for the first time in a long time. I didn't feel anger. I felt understanding. She meant it. Then. But the version of her that wrote those words? She didn't last. And maybe I didn't either. Maybe we both changed. But only one of us did it honestly. I folded the letter. Put it back in the box. Taped it shut. Didn't burn it. Not everything needs fire. Some things just need burial. Because ashes can still stain. But the buried? They rest. And so do we. That summer, I started hiking. Cooking again. Sleeping through the night. I met someone. Not planned. Not dramatic. She wasn't a whirlwind. She was a window. Clear. Open. Unafraid of silence. A widow. Soft-spoken but sharp. The kind of woman who listens without checking her phone. I told her the whole story. Not to impress her. Not for pity. Just to see if I could say it out loud without choking. She didn't flinch. Didn't offer clichés. Just nodded. One evening, we sat on a bench overlooking a hill. Sun bleeding into gold across the trees. She asked me. If you could go back, change it, would you? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the old house. The laughter I mistook for love. Because love doesn't echo. It answers. The man I was when I swallowed lies just to keep the peace. Then I thought about Madison. The strength in her voice. The way she saw me now, with eyes that didn't doubt. So I said. No. Because if I hadn't gone through the fire, I might have stayed a man who mistook silence for safety. She nodded. And that was it. No dramatic music. No lightning strike. Just a man. On a bench. Realizing the past finally stopped knocking. It was almost a year later. Late afternoon. Clouds heavy but not angry. One of those in-between days, not summer, not fall. I was slicing apples in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. Didn't think much of it. Expected a delivery. Maybe Madison's new books. But when I opened the door, it was her. Ashley. No makeup. Hair pulled back. A hoodie that hung too loose on her frame, like even her clothes didn't recognize her anymore. She didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just stood there, holding something in both hands. I didn't speak. Neither did she, at first. Then. I found these. In storage. She handed me a small box. Inside, old family photos, a keychain from our first trip, a DVD we never returned. Thought maybe Madison would want them. I nodded. Thanks. Silence. She looked past me, into the hallway behind my shoulder. Looks different, she said. Brighter. I didn't answer. She took a breath, like she was preparing for a speech. But no words came. Only. You look good. I shrugged. I feel good. She nodded. Looked down. I'm not here to fight. Or fix anything. I know. I guess I wanted to see it. With my own eyes. I raised an eyebrow. See what? She swallowed. That you're really okay without me. But that's the thing about mirrors, she said. You only see what you're looking for. I paused. Then stepped aside, just enough for her to glance in. Madison's shoes by the door. A book on the arm of the couch. Light coming in through clean windows. Yeah, I said. I am. She blinked. Tears didn't fall. But they gathered. I thought it would break you, she whispered. When I left. I thought you'd crumble. But that's the thing about mirrors, she said. You only see what you're looking for. I stayed silent. Not to hurt her. To protect the stillness I'd earned. You didn't, she said. No, I answered. I rebuilt. She nodded again, slow. Almost like a bow. Then she turned. No hug. No begging. Just footsteps on the concrete. I closed the door. Didn't watch her leave. Didn't lock it fast. Just stood there a moment. Breathing. And then Madison walked in from the back porch. Was that her? Yeah. What did she want? I didn't sigh. Didn't smirk. Just told the truth. To confirm I'm happy. Madison smiled faintly. You are. Yeah, I said. I am. She nodded and reached for the apple slices. Took one. Then paused. You know, she said, for someone who spent so long playing the main character, she sure didn't know when to exit the scene. I laughed. Not out of mockery. Out of release. You're right, I said. But this time, she did. Madison nodded, chewing. Let's not open that box tonight. Some ghosts deserve to stay folded. Not burned. Not framed. Just, put away. No, I agreed. Let's wait. She tilted her head. For what? For a time when what's inside doesn't echo anymore. I don't think healing is a finish line. It's not a ribbon you break through. Not a switch that flips. It's a hallway you walk down, and one day, you realize the echoes are quieter. You don't stop hurting. You just stop checking if it still does. Some mornings, I still remember the sound of her voice in another room. The weight of lies before they were revealed. The version of me that made excuses to sleep beside a stranger. But those memories? They don't anchor anymore. They just pass by. Like wind tapping on windows. Once, they were hurricanes. Now. Just weather. Madison's about to start college. We toured the campus last month. She asked if I'd cry when she left. I told her the truth. Probably not on the drive home. But maybe when I open the fridge and realize the orange juice is still full. She laughed. And I caught myself smiling. And the craziest part? I didn't feel guilty for feeling good. Not anymore. Not the kind you fake for guests. The kind that rises. Quiet. Earned. One night, I sat out on the porch with the woman I've been seeing. We weren't saying much. Didn't need to. She turned to me and asked. What does it feel like now? I thought about it. Not just the pain. The whole journey. The dinners. The betrayal. The silence. The rebuild. I looked out at the dark sky, stars too quiet to brag. And I said. It feels like the movie ended. And for once, I didn't leave before the credits. Because closure isn't about the plot. It's about choosing to stay for the quiet. To honor how far you've come. She smiled. You stayed. I did. Why? Because this time, I'm not afraid of the quiet. We sat there a long time. No music. No wine. Just air. Breath. Life. And when she reached over and took my hand. I didn't flinch. Didn't measure it. Didn't compare. I just held it. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is stay in the moment they once tried to escape. Later, as the porch light hummed and the night deepened, I walked through the house. Each room looked back at me like a page I'd already read. There was no suspense. No plot twist. Just peace. In the bedroom, I paused by the mirror. Not to adjust. Not to analyze. Just to look. And what I saw wasn't broken. Wasn't lost. Wasn't rebuilding. What I saw was whole. Not because of who stayed. But because of who walked through the fire. And kept walking. No map. No applause. Just footsteps. And forward.